Hello, welcome to Red Candle Club. I think we're on episode 8. So welcome back. It's been a while. It's been a little while, but there's been a lot happening in the space. So felt like it was a good time for us to come back and talk about some of the things that have been going on in the last week or so. So before we start, this is just for entertainment and educational purposes. This is not investment advice, and please consult a financial professional before you make any buying or selling decisions in crypto. It is a risky market.
So it's been a while. I don't know if we did we do a ETH Denver debrief at all yet? Or I think we chatted with...
Not really, because we had we had an interview after that, but we didn't really do one.
Yeah, we do have some ETH Denver content still cooking. We've had like a lot of life situations to deal with for the past few months, so we haven't been able to finish editing and uploading those, but we do have some interesting interviews that we chatted with from hackers at the event. And yeah, I don't know if you wanted to just do a quick debrief even on what it was like for you at all, or
like things that I've learned or found out. Yeah,
just kind of a quick sort of takeaway on it.
Yeah, a lot of interest around DPIN is one thing that I took away. One thing I took away is Arweave. Arweave has really impressed me at ETH Denver. Just with like they seem to have completely pivoted, and they went from just like decentralized storage into they're trying to build like overall DPIN, like DPIN cloud solutions, not just storage, but like everything. So I was really impressed with that project, and I really think that they're going to I could see them reaching new highs this cycle just from the pivoting in that direction. What else? Some Cosmos representation, like Injective was there. There was definitely some interesting projects with Cosmos. Some Bitcoin L2 solutions. Yeah. I can think of more, but you go.
Yeah, I think that, the Arweave was interesting. I actually didn't run into any Arweave talks or presentations, but I think that's definitely the right move to go in, because a lot of the storage blockchains right now are like archival storage. You have IPFS, which is like easier or quicker to access, but it's not really like on a blockchain. You're not getting paid to like store things on there necessarily at the protocol level. So yeah, that's cool to see that we're going to be aiming toward building more decentralized like cloud infrastructure there. Yeah, I would say there was the level of EigenLayer definitely showed up, and it seems like they put a lot of effort into sponsoring many different events. So I think they did have kind of like the loudest voice there. I don't know if it was necessarily like the most productive voice there, given that I don't think we're starting to see like some activity on like the ABS side, but maybe it's not completely taken off yet. And the narratives have also shifted around very rapidly. But yeah, AI was another big one there, just trying to, like Story Protocol, who I'm hoping to get on the show soon. I chatted with one of the people there. So yeah, integrating AI models to blockchain in an intelligent way. There's a lot of AI blockchains out there, but which ones are actually substance underneath? And yeah, Bitcoin L2s, I definitely saw those showing up. Have yet to actually use a Bitcoin L2 yet completely. I've seen a lot of controversy around that, but I think they're runes and they're trying, if it's actually going to be affordable to use or reasonable. I feel like we kind of chatted about this, like the space discussed this in the last cycle, like the viability of Bitcoin L2s and whatnot. I feel like we're kind of giving that like a new breath of energy now. So yeah, I'd say just like AI, EigenLayer, and some Cosmos projects trying to integrate with all that, trying to like, bring Cosmos energy into the EVM. So yeah, good event. It was like very packed. Felt like there's more energy side events this year, maybe than last year. The main event was still like pretty crowded, but it was like a smaller stadium than last year. So yeah, definitely more emphasis on side events. Yeah, good time.
Yeah, it was a good time. I liked some of the after parties. Barachain had some good events too. So Barachain had a pretty big presence there.
Yeah, they definitely did. Yeah, DYDX also had a bunch of events. So yeah, just the protocols that just have nice big treasuries. Just went down. Yeah, and then like the base alchemy event. I think that was the night we had the dinner. It's like after the dinner.
Yes. Yeah, they had a big party, right? They had a big booth too. Base had a giant booth. They had a pretty swanky booth. A lot of people were there. They were having talks in their booth. So that was also Near. Near had a really good booth too. Yeah. Did you see that one?
Near always throws down.
Yeah.
It's one of those chants where they always go super.
Like that's why they're doing it, because they're like, please look at us, please use us, please care, and no one. Yeah. I just don't hear of anyone really using it that much.
Yeah, man, sad. What are you gonna do?
And Solana had a booth there too.
Solana,
which I gave them a lot of credit for that, because that's kind of brave, to go to an ETH event. As a Solana group, it's kind of like there's like this rivalry. But they had a little booth there. They were having some little talks.
Yeah, so, trying to convert people. Like, hey, Solidity, like, check this out. So
yeah,
I think that was cool. Yeah, it's good to have more people checking out Solana. I think I'm seeing more developer activity there and interest. They've been having like some chain issues recently, which I'm also maybe interested to like discuss at some point, maybe in this episode, just to like understand it.
For sure. I could talk about that a little bit, because I was having some issues with the chain a few weeks back. We don't have to do it right now though, but we could talk about it later in the episode if you want to do some other stuff.
Then the other, maybe like the last thing on ETH Denver, just like the RFK turning out there, thought was interesting. So we're starting to see like candidates enter these presidential candidates enter like crypto events. I'd say starting in the last year or so, getting more attention there. Obviously, we had like the Trump NFTs. We've had the Biden administration going like on the attack generally. And then I would say, RFK showing up here, doing a speech, which he did get like heckled at pretty hard. Like, I don't know if you tried to watch any of the video, but it was kind of like unwatchable.
I saw some of it. Yeah. It was a little cringy
or something.
Yeah, it was a little bit cringy, but politics, man, it brings out the crazies.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, that was basically the ETH Denver vibe this year.
Yeah, it was a good event. I had a good time. Denver is a good place to have it. The weather was really nice, actually, for the time of year. End of February, it was like 50s, 60s. It was gorgeous there. So, nice weather. It's a nice, cool city to have it into. So it's just like a nice getaway from the winter here in the Northeast, and go just talk crypto with people for a few days.
And then shortly after that, Token2049 Dubai. They just
that was crazy watching that on Twitter. Just people's pictures of like cars just submerged underwater and stuff, like on roads,
like, getting wheeled around on like the package dollies, like to like cross.
Yeah, that was some wild shit, man. I don't know. And and then people were like talking about how they changed the weather, they seed the clouds or something. So there was conspiracy over like, did they cause this? And it was just like, oh god, this is wild. Yeah, crypto Twitter was fun those few days.
It was.
But I didn't hear of anything of the actual event. Like, did the event take place? Did they
heard absolutely nothing? I know people that went, but I didn't hear some what they do. They're just slowly just hanging out.
Oh man.
Came in the week with like extreme FOMO, then did like
right. Jeez. All right. Well, we can start getting into the meat of this thing. So, do you want to talk about some? I mean, we could talk about some of our trades. Like Tau has done decently well. I got in around 240, and then that went up to like almost 700 at one point, and then it came down to 350 recently. Now it's hovering around 470. So I might get more. I might pick up more here. I bought some at 500. It kept going down, but it's still a good, decent price here. There's some other AI tokens I'm interested in as well, like Netmind seems to be at support levels right now. So like that's like it's like the Chinese version of Tao, basically, is how it was sold to me. They got hacked a month or two back too, so the price dropped a little bit. But I mean, hacks don't stop projects. As long as it's fixed, it doesn't mean that the project's over. So that's really it. I'm just kind of looking at I'm not making too many big purchases right now, just because I'm not sure where the market's going to head in the next month or two. Summer's usually kind of not the best for crypto. I feel like people just go outside and touch grass, and the markets just kind of hover, So we'll see.
Yeah, I've recently definitely agree with you in really making any major moves at the moment. I think the last moves I made was Coin Frenzy, just exploring different bots, and just kind of getting caught up a little bit in that. But obviously, there's a few major success stories with that. But I do feel like probably 99% of the experience with meme coins is just getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
So I'm just like kind of hanging on the sidelines right now. I'm still basically holding everything. I have not really sold too much. And I have like macro concerns generally, but I'm curious like where you think things are right now in the market. Like would you say things are just kind of finding a little bit of support at the moment? And the free fall that feels like we felt recently has kind of like frozen a little bit, or?
Yeah, well, I think some of it is so the Fed meeting happened last week, and the big takeaway there was that they went a little more dovish than we were expecting, which means basically like supportive of asset markets. They didn't change the interest rates, but they did say that they were going to reduce the balance sheet roll off. I don't really know what that means, but it's going from 60 billion to 25 billion. So basically, they're letting less of their bonds mature, I think. And that's the most I'm going to say on that, because I'm probably going to sound stupid. But essentially, it's supportive of markets to have less assets get off their balance sheet. So that surprised the markets a little bit. I think that's why we bounced last week. We had like a nice jump in crypto assets and equity markets. But really, like, crypto markets it seems like it's all about global liquidity. And that right now it seems to be struggling. We're having less global liquidity. So it's not like super supportive of markets, at least in the medium term. So I don't know if we should expect fireworks over the summer, basically. I think we could probably neutral or slightly down, until the fall hits, like maybe August, September. And then because of the election and whatnot, like they're probably going to juice markets to get people to go out and vote and whatnot. That's how I see things going. But yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I really don't see markets moving much over the next few months. I don't.
Yeah, I think we're in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, and some of the ETF flows have been having struggles too. Like Bitcoin had a lot of the excitement has died off now, and I think people are just kind of, we started to see some outflows this week and the past couple weeks, and we had a day where there was no inflows at all. I remember like a couple weeks back. So I think people are just kind of, it's just taking a pause. It's not over, but it's taking a pause. The first movers got in, and now they're just, the weak hands are getting shook out and just need to wait the next move, basically.
Yeah. So hopefully we're not entering tough times. I know like globally right now things seem to be pretty hot, and I think there's some trepidation possibly getting pulled in from that standpoint. And I think just the fact that the interest rates are so high, and
right.
I think the government is in search of new revenues. So
yes.
I think, where there's all these like very spicy headlines around like taxes, and like there's like Bitcoin energy tax that came out a few months ago that was proposed. And there's also the unrealized gains tax, 25%. Increasing just regular capital gains tax to the highest rate, or the highest marginal rate. So I think that is kind of speaking to the government's need for additional.
Yeah, for sure.
Difficulty in maintaining things.
Yeah, there's also a little bit of fear of inflation going back up again too, which, we could see some bad numbers over the next few months. It seems like we bottomed with inflation and now it's going to start going back up a little bit. Not saying it's going to go back to 8 or 9%, but we could see, 4 or 5%, which would be right around the interest rate levels. So that's, it's not exactly like catastrophic. It doesn't mean that they're going to raise rates, but we could see some bad numbers, which is going to put heat on the market, or like a weight on the market, basically. Yeah, dude, food is. I mean, I don't know what the value is of fast food anymore. I feel like if you're going to go there and pay almost as much as it costs to like sit down or like get something healthier, like what? Yeah, I don't know.
It's like, it's pretty upsetting, but
it
is what it is. Nothing much we can do. Just kind of wait.
Yeah. I mean, we were expecting this, right? I mean, inflation, it wasn't going to go right down to 2%. It's going to take a long time for them to get back down to that. I mean, ultimately, it's probably going to have to be like a full-on recession for it to get down to those levels again. So, I mean, inflation's going to hover here, but I don't think they're going to raise rates until after the election if they need to. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Maybe we should jump in next to the airdrops.
Yeah, a lot of airdrops.
That world.
Ton of airdrops. You want to go over Eigen first? Sure. Eigen's a big one. Yeah.
Yep. So basically, slightly old news, although they've modulated a couple things in the last couple weeks. But basically, EigenLayer is launching a token, and they're calling it the Universal Subjective Work Token. So they had an initial white paper when they first launched the protocol, and then they came out with a new white paper describing how they're going to be adding utility to it. There was some backlash, as there always is, around protocols launching a token, and they announce a snapshot, and there's always concerns around not allocating enough towards the community versus the team. So EigenLayer, I remember jumping in their Discord when they announced it, and there was just a massive amount of hate. Like every message was like flaming the team, and it was like pretty overwhelming, actually, just like all the negative sentiment. And so, I mean, they basically capitulated and offered to release more tokens. So I believe that the final token amount is going to be somewhere like 1.66 billion tokens. And I am curious, like, what the fully diluted market cap is going to end up shaking out to be in the end. But yeah, so I mean, see a couple points on what the token is going to be doing. So it will basically be, trying to add programmable restaking, permissionless elements to it, basically allowing, Ethereum to play a larger role in more, or the Ethereum security to play a larger role in more protocols and programmability across the blockchain without having to roll your own blockchain yourself and try to get your own validators to support the chain. You're going to be plugging into Ethereum. So they're going to basically be plugging this into their EigenDA layer as well. So the EigenDA is going to be a pretty core component of, the whole ecosystem around restaking. And they're going to be using Ethereum as this secure data bus layer for communication across all these different protocols. So we have a lot of fragmentation right now, and EigenLayer would hope to, combine things together. There's going to be slashing penalties. At the moment, there are no slashing penalties. And what else do we have here? Yeah, so we're going to have to see how it will actually shape out in the final implementation of it all. But yeah, it could be cool. We'll have to see. If you want to check out if you're eligible for the airdrop, because I know there's a lot of difficulties there around geographic restrictions. So I think there's like 50 or so countries that are just restricted from even accessing the airdrop page, which is very unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But you can see
United States being one of them. So
United States, Canada, traditionally sanctioned countries, and she had like a list. you can go to their terms of service, and it should show up there. Or you can like search on Twitter. It's like Grok one seed. But if you want to see if that you're eligible and you happen to be from one of the restricted geographic locations, you can go to defilama.com/airdrops and then go to check airdrops for address. And you can
that's cool.
Basically,
I didn't know they had that.
Put your address in here, and I guess they are probably making a direct call to a smart contract. You could likely go to the EigenLayer smart contract yourself on Etherscan and do the whole query situation. I'm not sure what the EigenLayer airdrop token address is at the moment, but yeah, DeFi Llama will allow you to scope that out so that you can see. So I think the token might be launching May 10th.
Oh, wow. It's soon. Damn, this next week.
Yeah. Yeah, the distribution event is May 10th.
Oh, boy.
So
getting ready for that shit show.
Yeah, it has 15 billion TVL at the moment.
Wow.
I don't know what you think. I was trying to find like comps for like other tokens in the space that have like a TVL associated, and like what's their token value. I think I saw yesterday Lido has around like 30 billion TVL locked up, which is insane, but their token is only like 1 billion. So I think maybe that could be reasonable.
That actually does sound
shapes out.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very highly valued token. I think fully diluted valuation is going to be like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was over 10 billion, for at least, when it comes out, and then people are going to dump it, of course, and then it's going to go down. But, it could be a big number.
So these perps, does that mean that this is sort of what people are expecting?
Yeah, basically. It's like, it seems like futures. But I don't know how you could trade futures on something like this without being an insider. I mean, how would you possibly value this? I don't know. But it's going to be, this is a big deal. I've been in Eigen since the first restaking thing that they did last summer. So I've been in this for a while and just waiting for, I've been getting my points, but I'm not expecting a huge airdrop. I'm a small potato with the big whales that got into this. I'm like a nobody. So I'm expecting like $200 if I even get it.
Yeah. I think at that fully diluted market cap of like 10 to 15, it might be like around $6. Yeah, I'll have to check. Potentially just 1.67 billion.
Wait, so it's set up. Wow.
Yeah, I'd have to actually just divide the number of tokens or the fully diluted market cap. So yeah, 10 billion, 6-7 billion. This gets you like $6. So we'll see about that. Friend token.
Yeah, Friend Tech. So the airdrop happened. A lot of people were speculating whether it was going to be real or not, but it's here. They got flamed because the token dropped a lot initially, but I don't know how you could be mad at that. That always happens. Like literally every airdrop. But if it's a bull market, it'll go back up and eclipse the highs usually. That's which we are. So I don't think that it's a big deal. If you have it, I'm not a financial advisor, but I would just hold it. Don't get too crazy. But I think this has potential. If they build it out into something, if they actually if they win, there's a lot of competition, but this could be a big deal.
Right here.
Yeah, it's $3.
Yeah, it's hot off the press. Came out May 3rd.
Yeah, it dropped to like $1.50. People got pretty pissed, and then now it's back at $3. So, this is a competitive market, and we haven't really seen like a good social media crypto project yet. So if they can do this, it's a big deal. But I haven't used it much. I don't have too many. Oh, but what's Bunny Swap? Is that their like DEX?
Must be based.
I don't know. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I'll have to see. I'm not sure.
Oh, Jupiter has. You could buy it on Jupiter. That's kind of weird. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I haven't played too much with it. I signed up to Friend Tech. Maybe I should see if I got an airdrop. but I didn't really play with it too much.
Yeah, I remember it being all the rage last summer 2023.
Yeah, that was back in July. It was like all anyone was talking about.
Yeah. And then layer zero labs.
Yeah, they just took their first airdrop snapshot. So if you use layer 0 a lot, you're in now. So they took a snapshot. If you haven't been using layer 0, you should start using it. They'll most likely take a second snapshot if they're using language like, well, let's see, is it
snapshot number 1?
Yeah, so it's hinting that there'll be more. So if you haven't been using layer 0, start using layer 0. Like what is layer 0 on? Like they're underneath a lot of other projects, right?
Yeah.
So like they're an infrastructure project.
Yeah, they're an infrastructure. I guess they're kind of like competitor to Wormhole. Let's see, layer 0 labs. Remember they launched a testnet bridge for getting girly Ethereum or like other testnet tokens where you can like pay to like get the testnet tokens. So I recall using that. They got flat for releasing that.
Yeah, they also got massive funding too. So I feel like this is going to be a big airdrop.
Right. Yeah. So I guess they're exactly this infrastructure layer. So they enable programmability around communication of different blockchains. So I'm not sure which blockchains are within the ecosystem, but yeah, it seems like they have coverage across the major chains. Not sure if it's permissioned or permissionless to add new chains. I'd imagine there's probably some permissioned elements, but I would need to take a deeper dive on exactly everything they're doing, but that's pretty cool. If you need to bridge tokens, check them out. We also have what?
Let's see. So Parcel's next. So Parcel is one that I've been participating in. It's basically like a real estate trading market. You could trade different real estate markets basically. So like if you think, the New York real estate market goes up, you can long that or short that if you think it's going down. So they had an airdrop where all you had to, you get points for different things. Like if you trade, you get points. If you provide liquidity, you get points, which is what I did because I'm lazy and I don't trade that much. So that's what I did. And you could also buy an NFT, and they call it an HOA NFT, and you get 25% bonuses on points. And you also can use referral codes, which also gets you bonuses on points. So I did all of that. The first airdrop came out April 16th. So they already had an airdrop, but it does seem to be like they're hinting at more airdrops. So if you are interested in this project, you could still get in and get points. So they may do more airdrops in the future. I assume that they will, so that they increase usage on the platform. But I like Parcel. I think it's a really interesting project. It's one of the only. It seems to be like one of the only player in town for this type of product, which is like betting on real estate markets. So it's kind of interesting. I think but it was a decent airdrop. It didn't seem that risky either. And then finally, there's Camino, which is another, and this was on Solana, by the way. Parcel's on Solana, not Ethereum. Camino also came out recently. Camino is also on Solana. Really just like, how do I describe Camino? Like you could do liquidity pools on it. They have vaults for liquidity pools. Yeah, lending and borrowing. So like there's a lot of products that are similar. It's kind of like a competitor to MarginFi, really, if you could think of it as a competitor to MarginFi. And they had it. They also got flamed because their token dropped. But again, like this is very normal for a part. Like people, when they get airdrops, they're going to sell it. We just had taxes paid recently. Like people need money, right? So they're going to sell their airdrops. They're going to buy it. The first movers are going to sell. First people that get it, and then they're probably going to buy in when it goes down again. So, it's not surprising to me. But I got to claim my airdrop. I got one, so I got to see what I got. But yeah, so there's probably other ones. There's a ton of airdrops happening, but these are the ones that we pay attention to. These are the biggest ones hitting the news. So and there's a lot more to come too. I'm sure there's a lot more projects out there that like Drift. I know on Solana is going to have an airdrop eventually. So also Phoenix, which is a DEX on Solana. There's been speculation that there's going to be an airdrop there, but there hasn't been any confirmation of anything. But given how much funding they've gotten. It's a DEX. It's a DEX that has both like on-chain and off-chain components to it. and they're located in New York City. I actually went to their office like a month ago because they had like an after party, or not an after party, a happy hour. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I met Jerry, the founder. He's a cool guy. He used to work for Solana, and there were a lot of like other ecosystem players there. Like Drift was there. Let's see who there were. A couple of, I think some guy from Margin was there too. So it was a pretty neat event, and they're going to new offices soon too. So they're rolling in the money, especially with all this trading for a startup and how many people they have. They're doing really well. So
yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yep. Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting project. All right, what is?
Yeah.
You want to talk about blockchains going down? That's always fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. So, I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on over the past few months. It's hard to even like name the exact dates at the moment, but I would say Base has been down, Solana has been down, Polygon's ZKVM has had a lot of down moments. Curious, I know Solana right around maybe like the last third of like the meme coin frenzy, there was a lot of failed transactions.
Yeah,
extreme difficulty doing any sort of DEX trades. And I think the whole blockchain was just basically brought to a halt. And we've seen other people we know doing business or marketing related to Solana, various projects there that were basically halt their business because they could not launch any sort of token on Solana.
Yep.
Without it failing. So curious if you've dug into what exactly the cause was of all this, the networking issues, if it's been
yet.
So
I had it didn't, like, you know, what we're seeing with Solana these days is not completely going down, but it's kind of like having soft outages where the chain gets so congested that it just can't move, and you have failed transactions, and you basically have to like spam transactions until it gets through. And you know, the fees are not as cheap anymore as they used to be either, just because they have these new fee markets on Solana now, which was supposed to combat the chain outages. But the bad part is that there's a lot more traffic on the chain now, especially with all the meme coins and whatnot, that it's you know, it's just having trouble handling the load. Basically, it's just congestion. It's scalability of the chain is coming into question. So I really, you know, they have released some upgrades in the past month or so to fix this. So they've been on it, and they've been delivering updates and fixing it. So again, like I have a lot of confidence in this chain to solve problems. They have some of the smartest people in crypto working on it, and Anatoly is an amazing founder, and I really think that he is really like probably one of the best examples of a crypto founder that we have right now. Just like following his Twitter, he's just like very level-headed about like the issues, and you know, like he's still like involved in the engineering discussions too, which is pretty cool. So yeah, they've been struggling. I'm not gonna like ignore that. They've definitely been struggling, and I think that hopefully we get some like this Fire Dancer client. You know, I know that there's a lot of hype around it, but if they release clients that can move transactions faster, then it's going to be a big deal for the chain. But yeah, it ultimately it's not the worst problem. Like it's actually a good problem. Like there's so many people using the chain that they're having trouble processing transactions, and the fact that people are still willing to like spam transactions and use the chain even after all these issues, to me is a really bullish sign, to be honest. It says that people love the chain so much that they're willing to deal with all this stuff. And so I think it's a good thing, to be honest. I know it's like a weird perspective, but I would rather have a chain be going down because it's being used too much than a chain that never goes down but nobody uses it. Like you're not using it for anything, right?
Right. Yeah, I think
so.
It's an interesting foil to Ethereum at the moment. Ethereum it's functional. It's extremely expensive to use, so it's really not an option for most majority of users. You do have these layer 2s, but those are also expensive. there's a lot of fragmentation across the layer 2. So Ethereum is, and I think it's fair to say they innovate generally pretty slowly at Ethereum, which is good if you want stability and you want like a stable platform to build on, but it's concerning when you are trying to be a general purpose blockchain. You want to like bring in as much as you can to the ecosystem, but you do have like these extreme barriers. Fire Dancer is also cool. I'm following that closely to see. I think it's still early, it seems, and I think it uses some core Solana client characteristics in it. It's not like fully its own thing yet, to my knowledge, but
Right,
it should
not yet.
make it more, like affordable to run a Solana client. Maybe in like right now, I was checking if you were to run a client, still be quite expensive. It'd be like $1,000.
Oh yeah.
I think if you to Solana client.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be like a next cycle thing. Unfortunately, I don't think I would be very surprised if they got it out before the cycle was over, just because it's such a big move. I mean, they basically are rewriting Solana in C++, so that's hard. So
yeah, I think another interesting thing. Speaking of Node clients, I don't know if you saw this came out pretty recently. Reth. So
I did see
Paradigm has
this.
been building this Ethereum client that they basically rewrote Geth entirely into Rust, and they added like a lot of different characteristics regarding parallelizing various components of the client and just trying to be like as efficient and low level as possible with the entire every computation of a call that would utilize gas on Ethereum. They're trying to make this client much more efficient than the traditional clients that would be used. So they basically come up here, and the client's developed by Paradigm, and it's been in beta for a while. Although I chatted with a lot of protocols and people at ETH Denver that are using it in production today. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they're trying to basically maximize this like gas per second concept that they're talking about. So they're making a claim that everything is too focused on TPS and not gas per second, which is gas per second is more, I guess, accurate as far as like how much compute can you put on chain in a given unit of time. So they're claiming that they're poised to get to a giga gas per second. Right now, the best you can do with like optimistic BNB, it's like 100 mega gas per second. So that would be 2 orders of magnitude greater than the fastest thing we have at the moment. I think right now they're about 100 to 200 megagas per second. Yeah, so you can see that vertical scaling, horizontal scaling. It's a very interesting read. They have a lot of documentation on how they're thinking about building out the client, and this could be very cool for Ethereum performance.
For sure.
So if the infrastructure provided this, they implement it.
No, it's a good move. I think it's a good move. I mean, and this is one thing that like this is what Rust is actually good for, right? Like Rust is meant for this type of stuff. So I think, Go is a very fast language, and Go is good it's fine, but Rust blows it out of the water in terms of speed and so like this is something that Rust is actually much better suited for, and C++. So, we should be writing these systems in Rust and C++. The problem is that it takes a long freaking time. Like Solana was written in Rust, right? And that's why it worked so well. So like, it's a good thing that these things are being rebuilt in these sorts of technologies that are better. The problem is that speed to market's also fast too. So like you have to, starting off with Rust is a big ask. And I think that might be why like Solana had some issues, is because they were writing it in Rust when, Rust is much more mature now than it was when Solana was getting started. So like maybe they didn't write it in the best way. But I remember when I was using Solana a few years ago that a lot of people said like the Rust code is shit, and like they wrote it in Rust, but like not the best way. So I think like as we learn more about Rust and we learn the better way of like writing things, it's just gonna get better and better. So yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, we're using Rust at my startup. And it's a hard language to learn. Like I I mean, I love it for the performance and all that stuff, but the learning curve is quite massive, and it's just like C++ in that regard, right? Like C++ is also difficult, but for different reasons.
Yeah, the data structures at my school was based on C++, and I remember just like getting wrecked by it. Just like,
yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, when you saw segmentation fault on your screen, like that was like the end of I hated that. And like there was like no clue as to like why. It was just like your shit died and figure it out on your own. And it's just like, thanks, man. Whereas like Rust gives you, the Rust compiler helps you a lot more with that. Like the Rust compiler will tell you before you run it, like this is where your memory is messed up and you have to fix it. So the idea behind Rust is by the time, you get much less runtime errors because the compiler does so much work for you to figure out beforehand, whereas C++ doesn't. So you get a lot more runtime problems with C++ because it doesn't tell you like where your memory is there and not there. Anyway, just some geeky stuff, I'm a programmer, well, kind of. So yeah, I mean, it's good that we're using these languages. They're really meant for these types of things. So
absolutely, yeah. And if you're a developer listening and looking to get into crypto, I'd say Rust is pretty much,
yes. I would definitely take the time if you're young, you're trying to figure out how to make a lot of money. Rust, take the time, learn it, get good at it. You'll have a job not just in crypto, but like finance, high frequency trading. Like their Rust developers are paid very handsomely right now. So, and I foresee that being the case for quite some time. But so just because it's such a hard language to learn and use. So,
absolutely, yeah. What do we got next? I mean, I think we could maybe touch on jail time.
Yeah,
anything.
It's always fun.
Sports, but yeah, and then can wrap it up. But yeah, basically, since our last meeting that we've had here, there's been some interesting cases that have closed for various people. Lawsuits from the government advancing. So yeah, SBF we've seen this is a bit old news now, but he's basically sentenced to 25 years in prison. So I guess this was like somewhat controversial. Some people, I guess the prosecutors wanted.
Yep.
Years, we only got 25. There's too many strong opinions on this. I feel like that's pretty significant time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the call.
Agreed.
Like how much people actually lost. It's obviously very significant. It should definitely be actually punished.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of time, right? I mean, by the time he gets out, he's going to be old, almost really old. He'll be almost 60 by the time he's out of prison. So, I mean, what do we want to see here? Like, do we want him to die in prison for this? I mean, I really the most important thing to people is if they get their money back from FTX. Like, if you get your money back from FTX, like, fine. Like, he'll spend 25 years in prison. I think that makes sense. The most important thing is getting people's money back if they can from this, cluster F. Yep.
DZ. So it appears the charges were related to negligently allowing money laundering to occur on Binance. And yeah, it's not too dissimilar from the cases that have also been settled.
This one was weird, honestly. I felt like when I saw this, I just don't know what the point of this is. I feel like it was just a signal by the government that like they're doing something, like, oh, look, we're going after the bad guys. Like, okay, he's going to spend 4 months in prison. So what?
Right.
I mean, and how is he going to be treated? Like, I don't know. I just feel like this was a virtue signal saying like we're going after the bad guys. But
yeah, 100%. I think it'd be interesting to get a legal analysis on all this. More significant in the space that we've seen was the Samurai Wallet co-founder think it was 2 developers maybe were extradited, or one of them was arrested in, the other was like Portugal or something. So I haven't used this before. It's been pretty controversial. I'd say maybe the most controversial story of the prosecution last couple months. But basically, it was this privacy application for Bitcoin, and supposedly facilitated more than $100 million in money laundering. And supposedly it did 2 billion in unlawful transactions, although apparently that 2 billion number, the only funds that were tracked to actual crime was the 100 million number. So in theory, there's, as far as like traceable crime associated to the wallet, it's like 95% was legitimate activity. Less than 5% was this confirmed illegitimate activity. And I guess they got some tweets or DMs from him that didn't look great, where it seemed like they were leaning more toward trying to service the dark side of crypto rather than the light.
Sure.
I don't think that's necessarily like incriminating to say. It's just like, are your actions in support of this directly? Should be the marker. But I guess there's concerns around a war against privacy at the moment with regards to crypto. Like just using a mixing service should not mean that it's illegal. If you're able to, like, of course it's a controversial area, but there are a lot of cases where you'd want to have on-chain privacy. There's a million legitimate reasons why you would want to have not your identity tied to your wallet. Everything's so traceable and so public. So if you're to use these things, or for example, if you want to donate to a cause in a country that is censoring or tracing where you're donating money to, and we've seen this in a lot of authoritarian countries, that certain causes, they can arrest you in prison. So if you're able to donate crypto, your identity linked to that, that's a key use case as well. It's just general as you do on chain, be visible to the world if your identity is. So definitely a negative use case for these mixing services for sure. But I don't believe that just using a mixing service is, immediately an illegal transaction.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a tricky one. Like, yeah, I mean, this. What was that at the bottom? The bottom of the article. Berman oversaw. Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, this is another big one I forgot about. Abraham Eisenberg. He was thrown in prison as well for exploiting mango markets. So that was a pretty big move, I think. Yeah, I mean, he basically single-handedly took down mango markets. Which was the biggest perp dex on Solana at the time, back in October 2022. And he basically took out, I forget exactly how it works, but he basically was able to take out like an infinite loan on Mango and just like tanked the whole exchange. So yeah, they got him, and they made an example of him. So like, I'm very torn on these issues, because like, on one hand, I'm glad that they caught this Abraham guy and they did something about him, because people shouldn't be allowed to just like do this stuff and get, and take people's money and, like get away with it. Right. But on the other hand, especially with like that mix-in service, it's a little harder, because we should be able to use privacy services. It's kind of like, like, should I go to jail because I used a browser that blocks advertisements because I don't want people looking at my browsing activity?
Yeah, or VPNs. VPNs are kind of another analogous case here. I would say, yeah, that's concerning for developers. I think like that and Tornado Cash fall into this bucket, and I do think it'd be valuable to have like a legal expert on sometime to chat about this in more detail. Like, is there more to the story than just building something? Because I think to be able to build something should not be an indictment at all. Like, it's like people build stuff all the time and like it's used for nefarious purposes. But if you're building something, just writing code for it to like learn and understand the technology, that absolutely should not be a crime. So I think there's concerns around like what happened beyond development, and like how much of it was just them being developers, like running a project, versus facilitating criminal transactions. I think this is a hairy area because the government wants us to just track every transaction no matter what. So they want you to be registering as a money services business and doing KYC on all your users. That's just not feasible for small projects that are working with like open finance. So there's like a lot of controversial regulatory action being performed here. And I guess the market's defense was like, this is the guy who was just like utilizing the code as law framework.
Yeah, that's a little different. I feel like that was a little more justified than, because like that I mean, there was a lot of good stuff happening on that chain, and there was a lot of honest money going through there, and that guy just, he saw an exploitation, and instead of, he made a decision of he could either have reported it and just like kept the chain, made the chain stronger, but instead he said, I'm just going to take all for myself and screw everybody else. And that mindset sucks. And that's not the same mindset as someone who builds a privacy service then wants other people to use it. Like, that's giving, whereas this guy was taking. So I feel less sympathy for Abraham, much less, like none, versus the privacy service guys who are actually building something. Like, this guy isn't building shit. He was just trying to take from everybody. So
yeah, I mean, I think it'll probably set an interesting precedent here, which may or may not work to the community's benefit. I think there's difficulties around, could the chain have just like forked back to the previous state and just ignored his hack, or is it best to just, deem what he did as an actual crime? I guess.
Yeah. Well, if Mango had their own chain, they probably could have, but they didn't. They were using Solana. So, I mean, they would have had to roll back the entire Solana chain, which I don't think would have been worth it. So, but this is part of why exchanges want to build their own chains. Like DYDX, right, is building their own chain. So they could do stuff like that. Where with this, it's like you're just kind of screwed. So, yeah, I feel bad for Mango. I really do, because they're still around now, but it's not. I mean, Drift ate their lunch, so just go use Drift. Mango's just floating along, really.
Yeah, perhaps they'll be able to claw this back somehow. Maybe they already have to some extent. They'll just kind of put it back in. I mean, I think the takeaway for me, and based on what I'm seeing as well, because I was also involved in the DAO, I think I was telling you before, that was subject to an apparent fraudulent scheme, it seems like, based on an investment the DAO made. And I think there's this misconception in crypto that, like, because it's crypto, like, there's no rules and you can just do whatever you want. And
right.
Traditional world laws do not apply to you. But that's just absolutely not the case. And that's not what's happening in the courts right now. Like, they're being prosecuted as like traditional fraudulent schemes. Like, just because it's crypto doesn't mean it's just can't be deemed as like corporate or breach of fiduciary duty, or like just totally false claims is like what you're going to be doing or building for people. So they're, in a positive way, there are legal avenues for people that have been subject to like pure scams. There are like many legal, viable, civil or criminal routes for people to take to get back money, but it's kind of in contrast with a lot of things in crypto are kind of like play at your own risk,
right?
But that doesn't necessarily make you safe from eventually having the government put you in jail.
Yeah, this is where it gets like really tricky with legal issues, right? Like, on one hand, the US, it's got its good parts too. And the good parts is that people, if you commit fraud here on a large scale, you're probably going to get caught eventually, and they're going to make you pay for it somehow. So that, but on the other hand, they want to also monitor everything. And, so it's like, you got to pick your battles. If I was a developer, wanting to build a privacy solution, I would not build it in the United States. I would try to build it in a different country with less rigid institutions, like Argentina, for example. Go build it in Argentina. They need all the money they can get right now, so they'll take your business. So it's like it's tricky.
Yeah, or Dubai.
Yeah, or Dubai. Yeah, Dubai needs all the business it can get. So there'll probably be a little more leeway there with like what kind of businesses you run, as long as you pay whatever taxes you need to pay, etc. They'll just kind of leave you alone. But the United States being the world reserve currency and everything, people expect certain things, and that the part of that is knowing where all the money's going and who owns what, and it's just kind of the environment that we're in.
Education on this right now. I feel like everyone's kind of willy-nilly just throwing corporations up in like different jurisdictions, but I think there needs to be like a really good, clearer picture for where people can start businesses, that tokens,
right?
Non-custodial or custodial wallets. There's like so many things out there in NFT projects. Like, where's the best place to go, and like where are you domiciling this? Essentially, like the foundation component, or you have like a corporate component. That
I think we're gonna get there. It's just gonna take a long time. I mean, Coinbase is doing a lot of work around this. Like Brian's always in DC lobbying for better crypto regulation. So like we'll get there, but it's going to take a long time. We're just super highly regulated when it comes to finance, and almost like draconian. I mean, it is draconian. The word is, it's basically a no is the default. So
yeah, it's see some changes here. I think November will be like a really critical moment for crypto in the US. It does seem like it's a very dicey idea to do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of protocols that are still headquartered in the US.
Right.
It's time to be incorporated in other jurisdictions.
Yeah. Like Uniswap, right?
Yeah. Uniswap's based in Brooklyn. And yeah, they're dealing with an SEC lawsuit, I believe, as well.
Yep. I'm not surprised. I mean, New York City is arguably the most highly regulated place to start a financial business in the world. So, I mean, I think probably like the only comparable places might be like Amsterdam, or some crazy. So like, kudos to them for taking that risk, but they're going to have to do a lot of work to stay there, I think.
Yeah, definitely going to need to follow that one closely. Uniswap, Consensus, and Uniswap and Consensus and Coinbase, those are going to be like critical to follow, see how those things shape out. And I think Ethereum being a security is going to be on the docket for the Consensus case. So they're going to try to get a ruling there. Not sure how long that will take, but going to be very critical, like just how these things get deemed.
Yep. I really think ultimately though that there's so much money to be made from ETFs, et cetera. Like we've already seen, I think the Bitcoin ETF was like a big move. We crossed the Rubicon there, because now they're going to want to do more. They're going to want to do Ethereum ETFs. They're going to want to do Solana ETFs. They're going to want to do an ETF for everything. And that's going to force the SEC's hand. Ultimately, they're going to have to go with what the apparatus wants, what BlackRock, et cetera, wants, and what they want is ETFs. So I think ultimately they will find a way to make this work for everyone. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I know Michael Saylor, he could be, definitely heavily in BTC Maxi territory, and I guess maybe at his recent conference, maybe, or I don't know if this is the same conference where he announced like they're building the DIDs on Bitcoin, but he seemed to be very confident that like Ethereum, Solana, like all these other chains essentially that are large that are not Bitcoin are going to be labeled as securities, and like institutions are not going to want them. So he seems to be going or believing very heavily that it's like, Bitcoin is going to be like the ultimate solution for programmability and everything else. So don't know if he's right at all on that or not, but I don't think he's a dumb guy. I don't think he's just like a stupid idiot. He has a lot of questionable practices and motives, but it's just you know, I do think it's a real possibility that we get some crazy ruling that like a major token is like a security or something.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, he could be right, but you also have to consider like his Bitcoin bags are pretty big at this point too. So he's got a vested interest in making sure that Bitcoin is the number one thing that everyone buys. So
yeah, I just don't get the whole like why can't other cryptos exist as well? Like you would think that if you're pro Bitcoin, you're kind of pro like crypto in general, where you'd hope that like Bitcoin, I feel like has its lane. It's like a very clear lane of just the store value thing. There's very minimal risk of these crazy protocol related fluctuations. And I think Bitcoin has a strong lane there as a digital gold. And I don't think it necessarily needs to be competing constantly with Ethereum. And I would think Saylor would know that because he's just like, I hate everything else. And just,
I just think his company is riding pretty hard on Bitcoin right now. So it's got to go up for him to.
Yeah, definitely conflict of interest.
Yeah, a little bit. So, in general, financial advice, you always got to understand like people are talking their bags and you just have to make sure that you get all opinions. I mean, I own Bitcoin too. I think it's a great asset, but I also own a lot of other assets that I own for very good reasons that are different than Bitcoin. And I think everything has a right to exist in its own way. Bitcoin can't be the one solution for everything.
Absolutely. So. Cool. I think that just about does it for today's docket.
Sweet.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. We're going to try to get on a more consistent cadence. We're going to have some interesting guests on very soon. And yeah, we have a backlog of content that we got to work through, but pretty excited about getting all that stuff out there very soon.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We appreciate you being with us for this discussion and have fun out there.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we'll chat soon. Peace out.